because they're also able to offer solutions to some of our problems. And patients can offer perhaps solutions that a health professional can't do. So, for example, if a manager is going to a policymaker, or if they're going to somebody who's commissioning services, having patient stories or having a patient with you to describe what that means, that can be very powerful in terms of shifting policy or shifting commissioning.
So one example, I took one of the patient champions with me to a CCG meeting where we were talking through how Jigsaw fits into their osteoarthritis care pathway within the CCG. And that patient had a big role to play in actually what they wanted that care pathway to look like and why Jigsaw should be part of that. So they've got quite a strategic role as well as a hands-on doing role within the project, and that's been replicated out in all the different countries as well. So we have patient champions in each of our project partner sites doing the same thing, being involved in resource development, but also steering a pathway for implementation of the project.
And did you find with that CCG meeting, were the commissioners responsive to the comments from the patient champion there?
Yeah, it's good you bring that up. We'd had 2 previous meetings with the same members of the CCG where we'd struggled a little bit in terms of how we were going to implement this, how would it fit in to their vision, and how are they going to get practices to take this up. There was a lot of issues around capacity of GPs and practice nurses to take on any more. And we've sort of been steered along the lines of, well, you'll need to create a business case for this and we'll need to take it to committees and think about it further. And then the breakthrough came when we took the patient champion, because all of a sudden it went from being all around sort of costings and capacity and commissioning issues to very much the meeting was concentrated around, this is all about patient care. This is all about patient outcomes. We want to increase the quality of care for this patient. This is his story of how he struggled with osteoarthritis and how he thinks Jigsaw will solve some of his problems and help him live the life that he should do with the care around him. And all of a sudden having that sort of emotional element to the meeting, the real life patient, the real life scenario in front of them. And some of the words that he came out with just made people stop and listen and think, actually, why are we in? Why do we put services on in the NHS? It's to gain better patient outcomes. And this was a perfect example of how a patient really got commissioners to just sit and listen and get things back to basics of, actually, it's all about the patient. So yeah, it was a great turning point for us.
Well, the purpose was to meet the Telford and Wrekin CCG. They were interested in the Jigsaw UK project, and I went with Chrissia and Nicola just to put our case forward why they should be using Jigsaw UK within their practices. I think the Jigsaw UK is obviously a tool which will help the GP practices. Eventually it will save them money and time. Not necessarily, no. But they were aware that I was a patient on the committee, and were quite interested in the fact that I was involved with the clinicians and the professionals. And they listened to what I said, hopefully. I think so, yes. I think it's quite obvious, isn't it, that patients are now really getting involved in all sorts of medical research, and probably not before time. I don't know, we're not just a requirement for funding anymore. I think we're always part of the team. I sit on a steering committee for one of the projects, And it's quite interesting that everyone around the table, eminent people, who are listening to what you say. And it's remarkable how many times they say, oh, I didn't think of that.
And what do you think sort of the main benefit of having them involved to that extent is?
Keeping our feet on the ground. It's partly, it is reality checking. It's also an enthusiasm. So I think it helps us to know that that we're on the right track. We're doing something that patients and the wider public feel is right. It's not just another good idea from the professionals. So I think it is keeping us grounded. But then it is also that very practical side of it, checking out the language. It was interesting when we looked at the guidebook, which has been one of the best received parts of the whole project. Working with our European partners, the guidebook needed to be translated into other languages. So we're working with people from Netherlands, from Denmark. Later, we've got Portuguese people to be involved. All of these countries need their own languages, but beyond that, there are the cultural differences. So materials need to be not only language translated, but culturally translated as well. And so I think the patient involvement is terribly important in that. They can take, it's very easy to translate nowadays, but there's something about what are the different expectations of different communities? Well, the patients there, the wider patient group can help.
I think patients are probably the most underused resource the NHS has. They know their condition, they know what they're looking for, they know where they want to be with their treatments and whatever. So I think they are the people that will drive research because they need answers to their problems.